That's the Dead Daisies from their new album Lookin For Trouble, where the hard rockers go back to their blues roots and drag songs like Crossroads and Black Betty kicking and screaming into the 21st century. We found vocalist John Corabi in his home studio.
As you can see, I'm kind of sitting in my little home studio here.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was just with Marty Fredrickson last night working on some new music.
Oh, nice.
So
what do you got going on?
Pulling my hair out trying to come up with lyrics.
Careful, you'll end up like me.
Now, see, I've got a friend that is he shaved his head. He had a little bit of a bald spot going on.
Right.
And I told him, I said, "Hey, buddy, that's not a bald spot. That's a solar panel for the love machine."
There you go. I like the way you're thinking. Yeah, but you got to own it. You got to live with it and deal with it.
Yes, sir.
Just the way it is. Anyway, whereabouts are you today? Are you on the West Coast?
No. Well, my phone number is a West Coast number. I've had my phone for 20 some years now, since maybe 2003 or 4.
Right.
But I live in Nashville. So
okay.
I'm in my home, just kind of dinking around in my studio.
Nice. Well, Nashville's where everybody seems to be. You're originally from Philly, aren't you?
Yeah, Philadelphia, and then obviously went to LA in '85 to do the music thing.
Yep.
And I'm still waiting for that to pay off. And
give it time. Give it time.
Yeah. So now I'm in Nashville. Try a new city, maybe.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, but now I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. So there you go. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's a bit of a left turn.
It was, yeah, but it was a smart thing to do at the time, and I don't regret it.
It is beautiful down there, though. I remember going down there with the Daisies in I think it was 2015. We were down there with Kiss.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Yep, it is. It still is.
Good.
All right, let's get into this new album, Lookin For Trouble.
Yes, sir.
So, blues record. Why do we need another blues album? Covers. Tell me, how did it happen?
You know what? It's like, if you read my book, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, it just means my timing is horrible. But it was funny when we were mixing this thing. I got this thing in my Google feed that said Slash was doing a record as well. And I was just like, damn it. But no, you know what? This was really kind of a happy accident. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but there was a documentary a few years ago on Netflix about the sounds of Muscle Shoals.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Fame.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So the whole story about Fame, and then they started a second studio, and then a third studio. And we all kind of had this bucket list thing where we wanted to go down to like the original place, see what all the hoopla was about. And we went down there, and what a great sounding room.
Yeah.
And it's a functioning studio, but during the day, like around dinner time every day, they do like a little museum tour.
Okay.
Around dinner time. So we would take a break. And then we had the option after dinner to either go back to the hotel and go into a food coma, or just try and do something productive. So we were writing for what became the Light 'Em Up record.
Right.
And we just kind of went back to the studio each night, and we just started jamming and goofing off, and we're looking at these old photos of the Allman Brothers and Aretha Franklin and all these great artists that had been in there. And we started goofing off and jamming like just some blues things that we all knew, like Crossroads and Born Under a Bad Sign. And
sure.
So Marty, being Marty, he always keeps the sessions rolling, records everything.
Yep.
And we went back and listened to some of the stuff, and we're like, wow, this sounds pretty cool. Now, we've always traditionally done like a tribute song or two to the artists that we grew up with, the Beatles, Zeppelin, whatever.
Yep.
The Who.
Yep.
And so we just said, let's go back a step further and kind of do a tribute to the artists that inspired the artists that we grew up listening to. And we just said, fuck it. And we, pardon my French, we actually, we did both records at the same time. So we were doing one record, like during the day and tweaking that. And then we were recording the blues stuff at night, and it just came out awesome. So we said, all right, fuck it, let's release it.
There you go. Yep. And as a vocalist, I mean, it doesn't sound like you're trying to emulate, Robert Johnson or Willie Dixon or even Rufus Thomas. So what did you have to, was there anything different that you had to do to approach things?
No, it was really honestly, just fine. Like, obviously some of the keys, whatever, just make sure that we were doing the songs justice. We were kind of using, I hate to say it, but we were kind of using Zeppelin's version of When the Levee Breaks as an example of how you can keep the melody, keep the lyrics, but change the music entirely.
Right, because I wouldn't call this a blues album necessarily. It's a hard rock record.
What are ours?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just our take on these songs. And then I've had quite a few people over the last few weeks since we started doing interviews for it. They're like, why did you pick the songs that you picked?
Sure. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah. And
probably one I'll ask myself.
Honestly, these were all songs that were like, as a kid, like I had no idea who Robert Johnson was. I didn't even, you know what I mean? I just went by like Crossroads. Oh, that was the Cream.
Yep.
Or Cream or Skinner.
Yep.
And same with Born Under a Bad Sign, Cream or Pat Travers.
Yep.
And, so all these songs were songs we heard by other people.
Yep.
From these amazing blues artists. So it was kind of cool. It was fun, but more than like as a music fan, it was just really kind of enlightening researching some of these things and seeing what the story was behind these tunes, like the real, like the guy that wrote the song, and you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So we checked a lot of boxes with this thing.
I love you managed to get Black Betty in there, Ram Jam, because it sounds like
that one was a little difficult, man, because it was weird. Like each song we did, we're like, okay, we don't want to do the Ram Jam. What would, and it was kind of a running joke, what would Zeppelin do? Whoa, Black Betty, Bam-a-lang. Whoa, Black Betty, Bam-a-lang. Black Betty had a time, Bam-a-lang. Damn thing gon' whine, Bam-a-lang. I'm out of mind, Bam-a-lang. Damn thing gon' whine, Bam-a-lang. Whoa, Black Betty, Bam-a-lang. Whoa, Black Betty, like you go back and you say, punch in that in YouTube or Google and like Ram Jam comes up.
Sure.
But then if you go back and you look at Leadbelly's version, or I can't remember the guy's name. I know his nickname was Ironhead.
Okay.
But like the first original recording of this thing was some dude in prison in like 1932.
Right. That sounds right.
And there was no music.
Yeah.
It was just these dudes working in a field singing these songs. And so that one was a little bit of a challenge. We had to kind of figure out like, okay, how can we do this? And we wanted to, I don't know, we kind of made it a stomp, and without sounding redundant, I think it was Marty was like, dude, let's just do like a trampled underfoot type stomp.
Yeah.
And sing Black Betty to it. And we tried it and it sounded great. So we're like, fuck it, this is awesome. Let's do it. You know what I mean? And we just laid it down.
Yeah. So you've been doing a lot of these live?
We were doing we were doing Crossroads, Going Down, and God, what's the first one?
I'm Ready.
I'm Ready. Yeah. But I think now, because Boom Boom's out, we may drop one and add that and
sure.
whatever, just play around with it. So
yeah. You mentioned Going Down. That's one of those songs that everybody's heard. They don't really know a lot about it, but it sounds familiar.
There's another one. It's like, never heard the Freddie King version.
Yep.
We became aware of that song, Doug and myself, through Jeff Beck.
Yep.
So these are, like I said earlier, these are all songs, I could go down the list, Aerosmith, Walking the Dog.
That's right.
And then David Lowy was like, I really want to do Little Red Rooster. And then he told us this story about how he was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something like that. And he saw some TV program, the Rolling Stones played Little Red Rooster.
Yep.
It was like kind of their first breakout song.
Yep.
And he's like, that's how I fell in love with the Stones. I just thought that was a Rolling Stones song. So it's just all music we heard from other artists.
Yep. Well, it's a great thing about the way music works. A perfect example, most of these songs originated, almost 100 years ago.
Yep.
And they've been through how many different versions and artists. By the time it got to you, it's almost nothing like the original artist couldn't really understand or recognize it, but it doesn't matter because a song holds up, and then you've gone through now and figured it all out, and here we go.
Well, and the thing that when I was talking about it being enlightening, you start realizing that the blues was truly like an American-made art form that like white America just wasn't ready for it. It was like an African-American devil's music.
Yep.
And it was just like they weren't having it. But it literally took the genius, and I don't mind blowing a little smoke when it needs to be blown, but if it wasn't for these recordings finding their way overseas to the UK,
oh yeah,
and all those British cats like embracing it and then interpreting it their way and then giving it back to America in the 60s and 70s, we would have, know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is just our tip of the hat to everybody involved.
Cool. Excellent. Now tell me, because the band itself, Dead Daisies, more of a collective than a band. What's the status of the group as it stands these days, and looking forward?
It's funny. It's just a wording that, honestly, David, knowing when he first put this band together, David Lowy, he hired some really great cats to back him. John Stevens was the original singer,
right?
Marco
well known down in these parts.
Yeah, and honestly, I've never sat down and talked with John personally, but we've communicated via the internet.
Yeah,
and God, I love that guy's voice. What a brilliant singer, songwriter. So he started this thing, and he's like, John had a ton of stuff on his plate. Marco was doing a million things. Richard and Dizzy were, are we doing Guns N' Roses? I don't know. It's like back and forth. So David, just being who he is, he's like, okay, let's just call this a collective just in case.
Yeah, right.
And I know you look at like a lot of people question about the length of people
been in the band. Yeah,
all these, but it's just the way that all these cats that have been involved to some degree or another, are just personal friends of ours,
right? That
for one reason or another, for example, when we did do that run with Kiss down in New Zealand and Australia. Literally, we had it set up because David Lowy had some business things to do. And there was a couple of the shows he wasn't going to make. So we had Randall Waller very popular Australian musician as well.
Yeah.
We had him fill in for David.
Yeah.
And then right before we were getting ready to leave, maybe a week before, Richard Fortas was in a motorcycle accident and couldn't do the shows. So we got Dave Leslie from Baby Animals to come in.
Right.
You know, so they're on the list of whatever fill-ins, members, however you want to word it. But I mean, there's been, you know, the Damon Johnsons, those guys. When we did Cuba, we took Bernard Fowler.
Oh, yeah.
From the Rolling Stones with us, you know, and so all these cats' names are in this list of like former members, but it wasn't really actually members. They were just you know what I mean?
Sure.
So this lineup has been going now. It's been me, Doug, David Lowy, Michael Devin, and Tommy Clufettos since 2023.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so we do try to keep some sort of.
And these days, let's face it, with the way everybody's getting older, like, for instance, I just saw ZZ Top here a couple weeks ago, and the only original member in the group was Billy Gibbons, because Dusty's gone, and Frank Beard is unwell, and didn't seem to make a difference. I mean, they filled up the stadium here. They played great.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, even look at, I'm not slagging anybody, but look at Farner. Like when you go see Farner, there's like nobody in the band from back in when I saw them in 77 or whatever it was. People just want to reminisce and they want to hear the music, you know. So none of us really think that, you know, for us it's not about me or Doug or any of the parts. It's about the brand. You know what I mean? It's about the band. It's about the music that we've put out. And we continue to put out, and you know, hopefully there's much more in the future.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.